Welcome back to Chai with Siddiq, your weekly market wrap built for NRIs investing from the Gulf. Take a look at that table on screen. Six numbers. One of them is absolutely screaming at you this week. We'll get to it. Grab your chai. Let's go. This was a week where markets told very different stories. Wall Street surged, India barely moved, and oil had a week that every single Gulf NRI needs to pay attention to. A lot of it comes down to one thing: geopolitics. What's happening between countries is moving money right now, and today I want to connect those dots for you. S&P 500 closed at 7,501, up 1.21% for the week. Solid green, nothing dramatic, but US equities held their ground. Nasdaq 100 30,406, up 3.49% in a single week. Tech had a massive week, the standout performer across all six numbers on that table. We'll talk about it why in a moment. Nifty 50 24,013, up just 0.28%, basically flat. Despite global markets moving, India was in a holding pattern this week. Sensex 76,803, up 0.24%. Same story. Markets treading water. India is watching global cues but not following them higher. Not yet. USD INR, the rate is 94.41, and the key move here, the dollar actually weakened this week. The rupee strengthened 0.74% against the dollar. That's a good news if you are doing a remittance. Of that in a minute. And now the number I flagged at the start. Brent crude 80.38 a barrel, down 7.96% in a single week, nearly 8% in 1 week. That is a massive move for oil, and this is the number Gulf NRIs should be watching most closely of all. So what drove all of this? Three things. The oil crash. The big story in commodities this week was a supply side shift. OPEC plus producers, including key Gulf states, signaled a faster than expected production ramp up. Markets had been pricing in tighter supply. When that changed, crude sold off hard. Layer on top of that some softening demand signals coming out of China, and oil went into free fall. For investors, energy stocks globally took a hit, but airlines and consumer companies actually benefited. Two, the tech and AI wave. That Nasdaq 3.49% surge wasn't random. The US China technology competition is intensifying, and every time there's a positive AI headline, money pours into US tech. This week, strong signals from the semiconductor space pushed the big names higher. If you hold global tech ETFs, anything tracking MSCI World, tech or similar, your portfolio had a good week. 3. Dollar weakness. The US dollar softened broadly this week. That's what gives the rupee a 0.74% lift. A weaker dollar is often a signal that market expects slower US growth or that rate cuts are coming sooner. For global investors, it also makes emerging markets, including India, look slightly more attractive on paper, which may explain some quiet foreign inflows keeping Nifty from falling even as domestic sentiment stayed cautious. Let me bring this home for you specifically. Oil at $80 a barrel matters here in the Gulf. These economies run on oil revenues, government budgets, infrastructure projects, hiring. A sustained fall in crude prices affects all of that. If you are living and working here long term, this is a macro trend worth tracking. Not panicking about, but tracking. But here's the flip side that doesn't get talked about enough. Cheap oil is actually good for India. India is a massive crude importer. Lower oil prices means lower import bills, lower inflation, and more room for the RBI to manage interest rate. This is structurally positive for Indian equities. Even if Nifty hasn't reacted yet, the markets tend to catch up on fundamental, just not always on your timeline. And on the rupee, it strengthened this week. If you are doing your monthly transfers home, this is a marginally better week to do it. You get more rupee per dirham. So to wrap up this week, US tech powered higher, India stayed cautious, and oil had one of the sharpest single week drop in recent memory. Geopolitics is the invisible hand moving all of these numbers, and as Gulf NRIs, we sit right at the intersection of all three stories. That's it for Chai with Siddiq this week. If this was useful, hit like, share it with an NRI friend who needs to hear this, and subscribe if you haven't already. Cheers. See you next week.